I was the only one who never complained at work. I thought that made me reliable, until I realized silence was the exact reason I was carrying more than everyone else. You ever wake up one day and realize you have built your whole life around being the guy who says, "Sure, I can handle that"? That was me. At work, at home, with friends, it never mattered. If something needed doing, I stepped in. No fuss, no drama, just a quiet nod and sleeves rolled up. I figured it was better to keep the peace than stir things up. Always had this belief that real strength meant not complaining. It started small. That is what always gets you. Back when I was 24 and fresh into my job as a systems analyst, my boss asked if I could stay late to help with a project someone else botched. Just this once, he said. The guy who was supposed to handle it had called in sick, and the deadline was closing in. I did not have plans that night, so I said sure. Felt good, honestly. Like I was being useful, reliable. A week later, it happened again. Different task, same story. Then the receptionist went on maternity leave, and I was the one printing her spreadsheets and walking them over to management. IT guy needed backup. I was there. Janitor called out. I helped clean the break room because it was just this once. At first, people thanked me. Said things like, "We really appreciate it, Nate." They patted my shoulder, gave me those polite nods in meetings. I ate that up. I liked being seen as dependable. Never mind that I was skipping gym days, skipping meals, skipping whole evenings of my life. Same thing happened in my family. My older brother, Rob, he was always too busy to help our parents. So when mom needed a ride to her doctor appointments, guess who took off work? When dad's basement flooded, I was the one bailing out water with a trash can. Rob sent a text from his fishing trip. "Let me know how it goes." I told myself it was fine. I told myself I could handle it. And honestly, I could. For a while. But there is something they never tell you about being the one who never says no. Something that creeps in so slowly, you do not even notice it happening. It is not just that the requests get bigger. It is that they stop being requests at all. And the scariest part? You start thinking that is normal. You start thinking maybe it is your job to carry the weight no one else wants to touch. But that was before the Thursday everything snapped. Before the email that made me stop in my tracks. Before I realized silence can be its own kind of consent. And by then, it was already too late. That Thursday started like every other. Alarm at 6. Showered, dressed, out the door by 6:40. I skipped breakfast, again, and barely made it onto the train before the doors closed behind me. My phone buzzed with calendar alerts before I even hit the office. Meeting at 9. Client review at 10:30. Lunch blocked out with a quick sync that never actually stayed quick. By 10 a.m., I had already fixed a permissions error someone else caused, reviewed 2 proposals that were not in my scope, and talked to junior analyst through a budgeting spreadsheet twice. None of it was supposed to be mine. I kept my head down, like always. Figured it was easier to just get it done than to push back. Complaining felt like weakness to me, like it would somehow undo the image I had built. Nate, the guy who never drops the ball. Then came the email. Subject line, urgent, Q2 presentation, need your input today. It was from Stacy. She was 2 levels above me and barely knew my name until a few months ago when I stepped in to fix a client dashboard her team botched. Ever since, she had this habit of looping me in on things with no context and full expectation. The email was polite. Sort of. It said, "Hey Nate, hoping you can take a first pass at the Q2 strategy deck. I know it's short notice, but you're always so good with this stuff." That was it. No mention of the fact that this deck was supposed to be her job. No hint of a deadline except today. And somehow, the part that really got me? That line, "You're always so good with this stuff." That was how it always started. That is how they made it sound like a compliment when they were really handing off their mess. I leaned back in my chair. My shoulders were tight, burning in that way they always did after sitting too long without moving. My eyes stung from staring at my screen since dawn. I should have said no. I should have pushed it back. Instead, I opened the deck. 53 slides. Half of them empty placeholders. I got to work. An hour later, I missed lunch. 2 hours later, I was revising slides she had sent back with vague comments like, "More punch," and "Make this shine." At 3:45, I had not spoken to anyone in person all day. I was chewing on the end of a pen I did not remember picking up. My neck ached. My stomach growled. I told myself to finish the draft, then maybe grab food. I never grabbed food. The deck was sent off at 6:17. I waited. At 6:21, Stacy replied, "Perfect. You're a lifesaver." No one else was copied. No credit. No mention. Just the assumption I would do it again next time. I sat there, my screen still glowing, the office almost empty now. That is when I realized I had not eaten anything but a protein bar since yesterday. I could feel a dull pressure behind my eyes and a pulsing ache in my temple. Probably a migraine building. Still, I packed up, told myself it was fine. Just a long day. Just this once. Then I checked my calendar for tomorrow. And that was when I saw it. The meeting invite I never agreed to. Saturday strategy session. Nate, please prepare agenda. I stared at that Saturday meeting invite for a long time. It had been sent by Craig, my department head. Title said it all. Strategy session, key players. But it was just me and him on the invite. Nobody else. That word, players, made me laugh, but not in a funny way. It was the kind of laugh that never made it to my face. I clicked accept without thinking, even though something in my chest tightened the second I did. When I got home that night, I dropped my bag by the door and collapsed onto the couch. The room was dark. I did not even turn the lights on. I remember sitting there in silence, staring at the blinking light on my router, just watching it blink like it had something to say. The apartment felt too quiet, but I could not bring myself to play music or turn on the TV. I thought about calling someone, maybe Mark, my old college roommate. We used to grab drinks now and then, but I had not replied to his last text. Same with my sister. She sent a meme 2 weeks ago, I still had not answered. It hit me that I had not spoken to anyone outside of work in nearly a month. When did that happen? The weird part is, I never decided to pull away. It just kind of happened. One skipped call turned into two. One canceled dinner turned into a pattern. And at work, it only got worse. Next week, a new intern joined the team, Julia, straight out of grad school. Sharp kid, fast learner. I liked her. On day 3, her manager forgot to loop her into a team demo. She sat alone in the break room with her laptop, looking confused. I passed by and asked what was up. She told me no one had given her access to the client portal, and she was not sure who to ask. So I fixed it. Not my job, not even my department. But I knew how, and she looked like she was about to burst into tears. I told myself it would only take 10 minutes. It took 45. Later that day, Julia's manager mentioned in passing how lucky she was to have someone like me around. Then she asked if I could onboard the next intern too. I nodded. I always nodded. And slowly, I realized something. The more I stayed quiet, the more they assumed. They stopped checking if I had time. They stopped asking if I could help. They just added, "Can you fix this? Nate, you're good with slides, right?" Mine staying back just a bit. Each request landed soft. But together, they built something heavy. At home, I started forgetting small things. I left laundry in the washer overnight. Twice. Milk went bad because I kept telling myself I would grocery shop tomorrow. I fell asleep on the couch more nights than I wanted to admit. One morning, I woke up with my shirt still on, shoes kicked halfway under the coffee table, and a stabbing pain behind my eyes. It felt like my brain was wrapped in rubber bands, all pulling tight. I told myself I just needed coffee. I told myself this was normal. Then, on Friday afternoon, Julia caught me in the hallway. She said something casual, offhand. "Hey, Nate, you must be, like, the glue around here. You do everything." I laughed, but inside, something cracked. Not because she was wrong, but because it was the first time anyone had said it out loud. And 10 minutes later, I got a call. It was from my mom. She needed help with something. And I already knew what I would say. The voicemail from my mom was short. "Hi, honey. Sorry to bother. Just wondering if you could swing by this weekend? The garage door's acting up again. Rob said he's out of town. I figured maybe you could take a look." I did not even hesitate. I called her back and said I would be there Saturday morning, even though I already had that strategy meeting at work. Even though my own laundry still sat unfolded on the couch, and my kitchen sink smelled like something had died in the drain. But that is how it always went. Rob, my older brother, had this way of being busy only when things needed fixing. He was the favorite, no question. Charismatic. Loud. The kind of guy who could make a joke out of missing birthdays or forgetting mom's anniversary dinner. Everyone laughed it off when it was him. When I forgot a call once, Mom asked if I was depressed. I got to her place early. The garage door had come off one of its rollers. Took me almost an hour to pry it back into place. By the end, my hands were black with grease, and I had torn a piece of skin near my thumb knuckle. No bandages in the house, so I wrapped it with a paper towel and electrical tape. Inside, she had made tea. Told me to sit. I did, even though I needed to leave soon. I still had to prep slides for Craig before that meeting. She sat across from me with a soft smile. That kind of smile moms wear when they are about to ask something they already know the answer to. Rob's going through a lot right now, she said. Work's been stressful. His wife is talking about taking the kids to her parents for a while. You know how hard that must be. I nodded. Of course. I always nodded. She went on. He said they might need a little help with rent this month. Just until things settle down. That was her way of asking me. I said, yeah, I can help. Even though I was already dipping into savings to cover my own bills. Even though no one had asked how I was doing. On the train ride back, I stared at my reflection in the window. My face looked tired. Not in a dramatic, tragic way. Just hollow. Like someone had slowly taken a chisel to the edges and sanded me down over time. It was not just work bleeding into home. It was home turning into work. Everything was a task. A duty. A silent checklist only I could see. And if I did not do it, things fell apart. So I kept doing it. Kept showing up. Kept saying sure, no problem, I got it. I do not know when I stopped expecting thanks. I do not remember the last time anyone said they were proud of me. And if I am being honest, I could not blame them. I had trained everyone to treat me this way. My silence had taught them. It had told them I could handle it. Told them I liked it. Told them I was fine. And that night, back at my desk, staring at Craig's new edits, I realized something that made my chest go cold. I was not even sure I knew what fine meant anymore. That night, I dreamed I was drowning. Not in water, something worse. I was standing in a room filled with paper. Forms, reports, invoices, sticky notes with half-finished requests. They piled higher with every second, reaching past my shoulders, then my neck. I could hear voices, but they were muffled, warped. People saying things like, Nate will handle it, and he's got it covered. Then I was alone. When I woke up, my jaw ached. I had been grinding my teeth so hard I bit the inside of my cheek. I tasted blood when I brushed. That day at work, I tried to take a real lunch break. Closed my laptop, left the office, walked 3 blocks to a sandwich place. But while I stood in line, I realized I had forgotten my wallet. I had left it on my desk, along with my badge and my appetite. Back at the office, I stared at the blank screen of the conference room projector. The meeting had started without me. Craig looked up, annoyed. You're late. I nodded. No excuse. Just sat down and opened my notes. He ran through slides I had made, but never got credit for. Spoke about strategy like it was his idea. I watched the others nod along. None of them knowing the work had come from my desk. My hands were shaking, barely noticeable. But I felt it. Julia sent me a message afterward. You okay? You looked pale. I replied, all good. Just tired. That was a lie. But I had been lying like that for months. After the meeting, I sat in the break room. The hum of the vending machine was the only sound. I caught my reflection in the microwave door. My eyes looked sunken, skin dull. My posture had curled inward without me noticing. I looked like someone who lived inside an apology. I used to think complaining was weakness. That real men just got on with it. I saw my dad work 3 jobs and never say a word. I saw him come home with sore hands, swollen feet, and still fix the sink before bed. So I made myself into that. The man who absorbed things. Quiet, durable, useful. But here is the problem with being the one who never says no. Eventually, no one even thinks to ask. They stop seeing you as a person. You become a tool. And tools do not get tired. Tools do not break. They just get used. That Saturday, after the meeting and after fixing Mom's garage, I came home to a missed call from Rob. His voicemail was only 5 seconds long. Hey man, you mind covering rent for 1 more month? I'll square you up soon. No please. No thanks. Just assumed. That night, I could not sleep. I laid in bed with my eyes open, heart racing like I was being chased. But there was no sound, no danger. Just the weight. The invisible weight of everyone else's comfort, packed neatly into the spaces where my needs used to be. And sometime around 4 a.m., I sat up and whispered something into the dark. I said, I think I might be disappearing. The first thing I noticed was the sound. Not a noise exactly, more like the absence of one. I was sitting at my desk late on a Tuesday night. Office lights dimmed automatically to save power when it hit me. No one had spoken to me in hours. Not a question, not a thank you, not even a casual comment. Just emails landing in my inbox like packages on a porch, each one addressed to me without hesitation. Can you take this? Please update before morning. Looping you in. No greeting. No context. Just expectations. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped a belt around my ribs and kept pulling. I shifted in my chair, rolled my shoulders, tried to breathe it off. I told myself it was stress. Temporary. Everyone went through this. But my hands were cold. I checked the time. Almost 9. I had been there since before 7. My phone buzzed. Another calendar notification. Someone had added me to a Thursday review call. No message. No explanation. I accepted it automatically. That scared me more than the invite itself. I did not even pause anymore. Saying yes had become muscle memory, like blinking. Somewhere along the line, I had stopped choosing. On the train ride home, I missed my stop. Rode 3 extra stations before I realized where I was. When I stood up too fast, the world tilted sideways, lights stretching and blurring for a second. I grabbed a pole and waited for things to steady. A woman across from me glanced over, then looked away. I wondered how many times that had happened lately. People noticing something was off and deciding it was none of their business. At home, I reheated leftovers I barely touched. Sat at the table with my phone face down, staring at a small crack in the wall near the baseboard. I had been meaning to fix it for months. I had been meaning to do a lot of things. Instead, I fell asleep sitting up, head tilted forward, neck screaming when I finally woke up sometime after midnight. I dragged myself to bed and lay there listening to my heart pound like I had just run up a flight of stairs. The next morning, Craig stopped me in the hallway. He smiled. That same calm, confident smile he always wore. He said something about how reliable I was. About how it was good to have someone who did not make things complicated. Someone who just got things done. I nodded. Inside, something twisted. Because for the first time, I heard what he really meant. Reliable meant replaceable. Reliable meant invisible. Reliable meant I would never be the one whose workload got lighter. That afternoon, I opened my task list and scrolled. It kept going and going. Things I did not remember agreeing to. Deadlines stacked on top of each other, overlapping like they assumed I had unlimited hours, unlimited energy, unlimited patience. I felt a strange urge then. Not anger. Not panic. Curiosity. I wondered what would happen if I did not respond. Just once. I hovered my cursor over an unread email marked urgent. My finger trembled slightly on the mouse. And for the first time in years, I did not open it right away. I just stared at it and waited. I left the email unopened for 16 minutes. That does not sound like much. 16 minutes is nothing in the grand scheme of things. But for me, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, toes hanging over, waiting to see if the ground would give way. My heart was racing like I had done something reckless. Something dangerous. Nothing happened. No follow-up ping. No angry message. The world did not end. So I closed my laptop. Not for the night. Just for a minute. I stood up and walked to the restroom, splashed cold water on my face, stared at myself in the mirror. My eyes looked alert in a way they had not for a long time. Not rested. Just aware. When I got back to my desk, there were 2 more emails. Both marked urgent. Both addressed only to me. I felt something shift then. Not relief. Not courage. Something colder. A realization settling in slowly, like sediment at the bottom of a glass. They were not panicking because the work mattered. They were panicking because I had not answered. I responded to the first one with a short message. Polite. Neutral. I said I could not take it on today, but I could look at it next week if priorities were adjusted. My finger hovered over send for a full 10 seconds. Then I clicked. The reply came fast. Not from the sender. From Craig. He asked if everything was okay. Said he noticed I had been less responsive lately. Said he hoped I was not overwhelmed, because the team really depended on me right now. Depended. That word again. I typed back carefully. Said I was managing a full workload and needed clearer boundaries on new requests. I reread it 3 times to make sure it did not sound angry, or emotional, or weak. I sent it. His response was friendly. Too friendly. He said he understood. That he appreciated my honesty. That we would circle back. Nothing changed. The next morning, my calendar was heavier than ever. New meetings. New tasks. No removed ones. At lunch, Julia sat across from me with her salad untouched. She asked if I was feeling okay again. This time, she did not smile when she asked. I told her I was fine. She did not look convinced. Later that afternoon, I overheard 2 coworkers talking near the printer. They did not know I was there. One of them said it was weird how I had been acting distant. Said maybe I was burned out. The other laughed and said I would be fine. I always came through. That phrase hit me harder than anything else. Always came through. That night, I got another call from my mom. She said Rob was stressed again, that he was not sleeping, that it would mean a lot if I could help just a little more. I told her I would think about it. There was a pause on the line. A long one. Then she said, "That does not sound like you." After I hung up, I sat in the dark, phone still in my hand. My chest felt tight again, but this time it was different. It was not just pressure. It was anger. Not loud. Not explosive. Quiet. Focused. Dangerous. Because I finally saw it clearly. The moment I stopped being endlessly available, I did not become respected. I became a problem. And that meant one thing. If I wanted fairness, I was going to have to risk being seen. And I had no idea what that would cost me yet. That week, I stopped answering messages outside working hours. Not loudly. Not with a dramatic announcement. I just did not reply. The first night, my phone buzzed 7 times between 8 and 10. Calendar invites. Project questions. One email marked urgent in all caps. I stared at them until the screen dimmed. Then I flipped the phone over and left it face down on the kitchen table. I ate dinner in silence. I took a walk. I read 3 pages of a book I had forgotten I owned. The next morning, my inbox was louder than usual. One message stood out, from Craig. "Nate, can you come by my office when you get a second?" I knew what it meant. I walked in calm, back straight. He was at his desk, fingers steepled like he had been rehearsing his tone. He smiled, said he had noticed a change in my communication rhythm, asked if I was going through something, said people were starting to feel uncertain about my reliability. I let him finish. Then I asked him to clarify my role. "What do you mean?" he said. I asked what was formally expected of me, what my actual job description said, what hours I was responsible for, what boundaries existed. He blinked. Then he said the thing I had been waiting to hear. "We just need team players, Nate. People who go the extra mile." There it was. The mask off. I told him I had been going the extra mile for years, and that I was finally circling back to the original mile I was paid for. His expression tightened, just for a second. Then he nodded and said he understood. Said we would revisit workload distribution. Said he appreciated my transparency. But when I left his office, I knew what had really happened. I had taken a step out of the shadow, and the light was not warm. It was harsh, cold, unforgiving. That same day, I noticed things shifting. Not big moves, just small, calculated ones. I was left off an email chain I used to lead. A meeting was rescheduled without me. A junior analyst I had mentored was reassigned without warning. People started saying, "Let me double-check that with Craig," instead of coming straight to me. The current was turning. And yet, something inside me stayed still. Because I had made a choice. Not a loud one. Not a perfect one. But a real one. At home, I called Rob. Told him I could not cover rent this month. He laughed like he thought I was joking. Then, when I stayed silent, he asked if something was wrong. I told him, for once, I was just doing what I could handle. He said, "You've always handled more than this." I said, "Exactly." And I hung up. That night, I slept through the night for the first time in weeks. No racing heart. No phantom buzz from my phone. Just quiet. Real quiet. And in the morning, I did something I had not done in years. I looked in the mirror and saw someone who looked back. Not invisible. Not erased. Not useful. Just there. And I realized something simple. Something sharp. Maybe being seen starts with seeing yourself first. It did not explode. That is the part one never expected. I thought there would be yelling. Confrontations. People demanding to know why I had stopped picking up the slack. But that is not how it went down. Things just started detaching. Like vines unwrapping from a post. At work, I was no longer looped in. I was informed. Tasks I used to get dumped on me were now passed to others. With grumbling, sure, but they got done. Meetings that once needed me magically ran without me. Julia stopped asking for help. I thought that would feel like freedom. It felt like absence. And that absence made people uncomfortable. Craig stopped making small talk in the hall. Just nods now. Short, clipped. Others followed suit. You would think that after carrying so much weight for so long, setting it down would feel like flying. But what it felt like, at first, was falling. At home, Rob sent me a text. One sentence. "Guess we know who we can count on." I did not respond. My mom called 2 days later. Left a voicemail that started kind and ended sharp. She said, I do not know what happened, but you used to be so dependable. That word again. Dependable. The label they give you instead of love. At work, I kept my head down. Did my job. Only my job. I left on time. I said no, calmly, when something was not mine to carry. That is when the rumors started. People said I had changed. They said I had an attitude. That I was cold. I almost laughed. Because what they called attitude was just the space where my silence used to be. And what they called cold was just the absence of guilt. One Friday afternoon, Craig sent me another invite. One-on-one. No agenda. I knew what it meant. The meeting started with a compliment. Then a pivot. He said there had been some concerns about team dynamics. He said I seemed disengaged. I let him talk. Then I looked him dead in the eye and said something I had never said to anyone in my life. I'm done being useful at my own expense. He blinked. Once. Twice. I stood up. Told him I would finish the quarter, then I was leaving. I did not ask permission. I did not give notice because I owed them something. I gave notice because I owed myself closure. I packed my desk in silence. No one said anything. And when I walked out of that building, no one followed. The air hit my face like a slap. Not cruel. Cleansing. That night, I turned off every notification on my phone. Deleted Slack. Logged out of work email. Then I sat on my balcony with a beer, my feet up on a cracked old stool I kept meaning to throw away, and I just breathed. For the first time in a long time, I could feel the air go all the way down. And then came the final surprise. Something I never saw coming. It came the next morning. A message I almost missed. From Julia. The message was short. Hey Nate. I heard what happened. Just wanted to say, you were never the problem. You were the glue. We just never said it. I wish we had. It was from Julia. No emojis. No fake cheer. Just that. I sat there reading it 3, maybe 4 times. Not because I did not understand it, but because I needed to believe someone else finally did. I did not reply right away. I just let the words sit there, glowing on my screen. Later that afternoon, I went for a walk. No destination. Just shoes on pavement. The sun was out. Not warm, but enough to remind me the seasons were still changing, even if I had not noticed. I passed a coffee shop I used to walk by every morning on my way to the train. I had never once stopped. Always too busy. Always rushing somewhere to do something for someone else. This time I walked in, sat down at a window seat, ordered a plain black coffee. No laptop. No work phone. Just me. A real break. Across from me, a father was helping his daughter color a picture of a dinosaur. She was completely focused, tongue sticking out, gripping the crayon like it was life or death. He smiled at her like nothing else mattered. That used to make me sad. Seeing people just being. No obligation. No running tab of responsibilities piling up in the background. But now, I felt something different. Not envy. Hope. Because for the first time in years, I was not in the middle of a crisis I was pretending did not exist. I was not the patch. Not the fixer. Not the fallback. I was just a man in a coffee shop, drinking something hot, watching the world exist without needing me to hold it up. And here is the thing I finally understand. Fairness is not about what people ask of you. It is about what they assume they can take. If you never speak, they will never see you. If you never say no, they will keep saying yes for you. If you never let yourself be tired, they will never imagine you could be. And maybe the most painful truth of all, silence is not grace. Silence is not strength. Silence, over time, is a green light to be used. But I am not a utility. I am not a safety net. I am not a human just this once. I am a person, with limits, with value, with the right to be seen before things fall apart, not just after. That was my mistake. Not that I helped, but that I never showed them what it cost me to keep everything running. So I will leave you with this. Be helpful. Be kind. Be supportive. But be visible. Because people do not value what they cannot see. And if you spend your whole life being the quiet one who always says yes, one day, you will look around and realize no one ever learned how to carry anything without you. And that is not respect. That is erasure. And I refuse to disappear again.